Not for nothing, but this would have been easier in person, just saying.
I hear you, Steve. So 5:07, 5:08, like to call the meeting to order for the Amity Board of Education Policy Subcommittee. And next item on the agenda is the minutes from the last meeting. So
I'll make the motion to approve.
A motion? Ms. Eichler?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion?
You got to bring it to a vote.
Yes. So we'll call the roll.
No, I think we can just vote by affirmative with a thumbs up, either physically thumbs up like that, or you can do your reaction and Ms. Pero can keep an eye on things.
All right, that's good. So I'll do the, like Steve.
Excellent. Perfect.
Thank you very much. And then public comment, Ms. Pero, there was no public comment. Thank you. And then we go to the item number 4, the discussion and possible action on the epidemic emergencies policy on page 6.
Yes, so this was a new policy that was published by CABE this spring. And quite frankly, it was one that, first of all, we didn't have. And I think if we had had one in place in March, it would have given us a little bit more of a sense of everything that we would have to work with. The other thing, though, that I'm sort of happy about is I've sort of held on this until we've gotten through both the springtime and this fall. And so I did modify some of the CABE policy to be, I think, a little bit broader and not so much directly connected to either COVID, or I think it was also developed after H1N1. So to have a broader approach. And then, of course, behind this policy is a sort of regulation or appendix. I haven't decided which it was. That one is actually much more helpful because it's going to include sort of the idea of all of the people who become involved and kind of a flow chart of what our different opening scenarios may or may not be, depending on what's going on. I would say that you know, when COVID first started back on March 13th, we were scrambling to find the folders in the office that had all the information about H1N1. And I think if we had had some things in place, it would have been much easier. So now that we have gone through this, I would love to leave a legacy so that if it ever, God forbid, has to happen again, somebody has something that they can reference to sort of start figuring out what it is that they need to do.
Can we call it the Dr. Byers policy then?
You sure can.
And Carla, I think you had suggested a change for the time frame. You're satisfied with that?
I don't remember that.
I think you had brought up you wanted it until June or something like that, or you wanted a specific time period, not open-ended. Like you wanted to close the loop, if I remember correctly. Is that right, George?
That's what I recall as well.
Oh, I think that was the policy that had to do with the superintendent's, like, you know, being able to override certain policies because of an emergency. But I think this is a little different. I think this kind of.
Thank you, Carla. That is
more
what,
generic,
that is right.
general.
That's what we were. It was that other situation policy. So do we have a motion for this policy?
This is first read, correct?
This is first
So
read.
this will go in front of the full board and they can pick apart.
You got it.
And then the second read, okay, perfect. I would like to make that motion to pass this off to the full Board of Education for a first read.
Thank you, Steve. And this was the, okay, and so we'll just show our reactions. All right. Thank you. That goes to the full board. The next one up is the food service.
So actually have one left from last month to do with transportation. So A is policy 3541.33, which.
Thank you. I jumped down. Thank you very much.
So excited to get to food services.
No, that's very helpful. And this, I believe, Ms. Piero, for the committee members, it was updated from the yellow.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Thank you.
So this one should be in your packet itself.
Yes.
So this was actually drafted by the board's attorney because the proposed language from CABE was something that the SPED director didn't feel was adequate enough. So we engaged our board attorney to draft this policy as far as transportation for students with disabilities. And it, it's basically outlining we're going to, follow the student's IEP. We review it annually, and we make sure that if there's any special training required of the bus drivers, that they're provided that.
Thank you. Do we have a motion on this policy or further discussion?
I'll make the motion to move this to first read with the full board.
It looks
Thank
like
you.
we're calling the vote. And everyone's in favor.
Good job. Thank you. And now on to the food service where I had jumped ahead.
Okay, so there's several policies here. There might be a little confusion with numbering. It took me and some of the staff a little bit to go through and kind of line these up. But I think in the end, what we're going to recommend for our policies is a very broad policy for the board, because this is a very heavily regulated operation for us. Everything we do has to follow the USDA guidelines and the state regulations. So rather than have that repeated a lot in our policy, and then when changes are made, the policy would be outdated. My goal is to make this very broad, but yet cover what we need to cover for policy. So the first one, 3542, it says it's our 3542A and talks about food service vendors. That is not an accurate reflection. We have that policy on a whole different number that will come across. So our version of it, we're not going to use there. CABE's version, policy 3542A, we have another version, 35421, that I'm going to recommend we use. So the yellow packet, 3542A, recommend from CABE. I am not recommending that we use CABE's policy.
So as a recap,
Okay.
because it's
Go ahead.
confusing, this is the more confusing of them. Currently, if you go online and you look up our policy, 3542 is actually about food service vendors, which is not an appropriate numbering connected to that policy. CABE's recommendation of 3542, to speak to Mrs. Loomis's point, has far too much detail in it for a program and process that is so heavily regulated by the federal government. And every single time they change the rules, you would be changing the policy. So our recommendation is, and again, this is in your yellow packet of policies, if you look for 3542.1, that is our existing policy on food service. And it would be our recommendation that we adopt that as our 3542. Is that correct, Ms. Loomis?
That is correct. I think it's our current 35421.
Yes.
It's part of the yellow packet. I don't believe it's in the.
Yeah, it's not in the packet today, so there's no page number, but it's in the yellow.
Packet, and it says by CABE that
Very
it's
short, very short policy, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then you're saying that our current policy 3542.1 would just become 3542, and we would just change the number and get rid of the other one.
Right,
Yes.
we would get rid of 3542A, and we would not consider CABES 3542.
Then what about B, C, D, and the rest
So
of it?
all of that goes away. With the way policy works, the A's are, that's their pagination method. So 3542A is just the first page of all that policy. So we would get rid of all of CABE's recommended policy and just adopt our existing 3542.1 as our 3542.
Got it.
So that will be clear when we have the packet for the next full board meeting. So that'll be easier to follow. Yeah.
Yes.
Would anyone want to make a motion?
So we really need to, we're not going to consider CABES 3542. We're going to delete our 3542A. So I'm reverberating, huh?
I'd like to make the motion that Terry just said to bring this to the first read for the full Board of Education.
Thank you, Steve.
I think
And we'll
Pam,
call a vote with these reactions or thumbs.
Wait a minute. Dr. Byers, I have a question. Are we voting to pass 3542.1 to the board, and we are not adopting 35 or not acknowledging 3542? Is that what we're doing?
The board has a motion to accept the existing 3542.1 as our new 3542 policy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Carla, did you vote? I'm sorry, I didn't. Okay.
No, because we were still clarifying, so. All right,
Yep, thanks.
thumbs up everywhere. Excellent.
Carl, you pressing that button? You got the button Abe, going on yours? No, you got that reaction button that I don't have access to? Nice. It'd be nice to be computer literate.
okay. So I think we took care of B and C.
Yes.
Yes,
And we are on D, 3542.22, food service personnel code of conduct. So this is our existing policy. Cabe says it's okay as written, and I agree, so I'm not recommending any changes on that.
To the policy from 2016. Okay.
So I guess that's just one, the date needs to get updated, that you reviewed it and it's going forward.
Yes. Do we have a motion?
No, we don't need to make a motion on that. That just, the date just get changed. So we're good on that.
that is correct.
Thank you, Steve.
Pam is weighing in, I think.
I brought my A game tonight, George, from home.
I'm sorry. I think we could make a motion, if you want, to just that you've reviewed it, but we don't pass it to the board. So it's up to you guys.
I stand corrected.
No,
Thank you.
it's usually cleaner to make the vote other than, you know what I mean?
So I'd like to make a motion that we just change the date on this and keep this policy as is.
Thanks, Steve. So let's do our reactions here. All right. Thank you. So that was D. And now we're on to E, the National School Lunch Program.
Okay, so this is 354231. It's a CAPE policy. I am recommending we take most of CABE's recommendations. So we fill in the blank where it says blank public schools and say the Amity Regional School District. And will participate in the National School Lunch Program and may participate in the school breakfast program. And that's because we don't do it at all three schools. We only do it at the high school. and not the middle schools. And that's really a scheduling issue, not the opportunity. And then that box in the middle where there's the note about community eligibility, I would just strike that because we are not eligible for that. And I apologize, my dog's barking in the background.
If the dog wants to vote, the dog can vote on this one. They can take my vote. Mark means yes.
I think she's saying yes. So again, that was, fill in the name of the school and say we may participate in school breakfast program and strike the box in the center. And then it's a policy that I would recommend.
And it's a policy we already have in existence, but this is just updated to reflect something's more accurate.
From 2005. Yeah. All right. Do we have a motion about this policy or further discussion?
I'll make the motion to move this to first read.
Thank you, Carla. Let's do our reactions here. Thank you. And the dog voted too, right?
So, yes, she did. She's usually not a barker. Some people are excited tonight.
So this next one is
Policy that got the dog excited.
Oh, what's that, Steve?
The food policy got the dog excited.
That's it.
I
That's,
think it's
Then
just
there's
policy
We're still
in
on
general.
food, so we'll
Policy
see.
is the most thrilling part, right?
Yes.
We get it done in policy.
The next one is also updated. So F was also one of the three that was updated for the packet.
Yes, so page 10 in your packet is the most recent version of item F.
Thank you.
So what I did with that was take our existing policy and update some of the legislations at the bottom that from the recommendation of CABE's policy. I didn't take all of them because some of them you vote on in the spring every year to give us an exemption to certain times we allow foods and beverages that don't align with healthy foods. So I picked the ones that we follow consistently, and the other ones you will vote on every year. So it really is our existing policy with new legal references.
And there's no blank, but we'll put in Amity Regional School District number 5 like usual.
I don't think that's necessary there.
Okay, any discussion or a motion?
I'll make the motion to move it to first read.
Thank you, Carla. So find our reactions. I'm just going to do this. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Now, food vendors.
So this is the one we saw earlier, but this is the updated version of it, which was adopted in 2016 and is okay as written.
Great. Thank you for reviewing that. So Ms. Pero, do we need a motion to be clean on that? So
Yes, because to be consistent with what we did earlier.
would someone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Carla.
I'll get the next one, Carla.
You guys are great.
And so, Ms. Pero, that's just a motion to revise the date of review.
Thank you. And continuing the theme there, nutrition program, H.
Okay, I am not recommending that we adopt this policy. Again, it gets very detailed about how food service works, and we follow the healthy foods. That's all regulated for us, so.
So then this is one we don't need to do anything to. We don't need to vote on it.
No,
Right?
the last time we went through this, we actually voted on not forwarding them to the board.
Okay.
From the
Listen, I'm trying to learn. I'm a little thick-headed, but I'm trying to
That
learn.
was your idea, Mr. DeMayo, so.
So we're following your logic, Steve.
Okay, well, that's scary sometimes, so I don't want anyone else to follow my logic. All right, so I'd like to make the motion that we don't pass this along to the full board.
Thank you. And then we'll have our reactions here. Great. School lunch service, I.
I am not recommending that we adopt this policy either because it's about the professional standards for the food service. We outsource ours, so we don't do the direct hiring. We weigh in on it, but we don't do the direct hiring of it, of the food service director or personnel.
I'd like to make a motion that we do not pass on to the first, to the full board.
All right, thank you. This next one is updated, so it's in the packet on page 11.
So we are required to have a charging policy for food services. So we took parts of what CABE recommended to apply to us. They had breakdowns for elementary, middle, senior, and district-wide, and we just went with a district-wide because that's how we treat everyone with a charging policy. So basically, this is, again, required by the USDA and the State Department of Ed. So we have to have a charging policy. We have to make sure that it's available to parents and such. And we did show what we had on hand when we had a recent review last February. But this expands it a little bit more and makes it pretty clear, you know, what is provided to students. If they don't have funds on their account, they get a basic sandwich or a basic breakfast to make sure that they don't go hungry. And then there's just guidance that it cannot, any bad debt cannot come from the food service department. It has to be funded by the Board of Education's general operating budget, which we do annually. We are fortunate we have a very low volume, between $500 and $1,000 a year of bad debt that we have to write off.
So at 5:29, Mr. Davis joined the meeting, and we're on page 11 of our packet, Paul.
And then, Mr. Davis, if you would just vote with a thumbs up or thumbs down, she's not going to go through the whole roll call. So just a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Thank you, Steve.
I have a question. This is a state law, right? Or this is an agreement that we have with the food service company not to have the vending machines on during an hour before lunch and an hour after, just out of curiosity.
That's the state law.
Okay, so, all right.
So we're on to vending machines 3542.4.
Wait, I don't think, did we ever vote on this one?
We did not.
Okay,
Okay.
so I think we need a motion to accept it with the revisions.
I'll make the motion to accept it with revisions.
Thank you, Carla. So we'll show our reactions, thumbs up or thumbs down. All right, Mr. Davis, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Now we're on to the vending machines, I guess. Yep.
Okay, so this just very succinctly outlines what we're required by law to make sure that vending machines aren't really interfering with food services. So it's CABE says it's appropriate as written, so I have no recommended changes.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we keep this as is, and we do not need to bring it to the full board, but we would just vote on it.
All right. So we'll show our reactions here. All right. Thank you.
Throwing me for a loop, Carla, with your reaction button.
Did I hit the wrong one? I wasn't looking.
Did you give us a thumbs down, Carla?
I don't see it at all, so that's what I'm saying. You threw me for a loop. I'm not technically, I'm technically challenged, so you're good.
All right, now on to the duplicating of copyrighted material.
Okay, we are done with food service. Yeehaw. Okay.
But the dog is still engaged, so
Yes, not happy.
it's okay.
So this is our policy 3543.11, and it's appropriate as written. I would just suggest making the changes from using the word videotaping to perhaps recording in the heading. And then in the second paragraph where it talks about, I don't know if audio or visual is the best way to describe those materials. Maybe that's still applicable, but
It's kind of an
Good old
outdated
AP.
term, but
My guess is I think you probably have to keep it because we still do have audio or visual materials that we could use, whether it's music or whether it's, images, which do still fall under copyright laws. They're just not maybe tangible. They might be electronic, but I still think they probably come under the same general law. And certainly if they reviewed it and said it was appropriate, that's probably still all within those same statutes somewhere.
So we'll leave audio or visual materials alone.
I would. I think the only thing I do agree with Ms. Loomis's recommendation of changing in just the heading, instead of using the word videotaping, I would say recording or electronic recording.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, are you speaking?
Oops, you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. What page is this policy on? I don't have it.
It's in the yellow packet.
Oh, in the yellow packet. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not numbered, but if you're looking for it, it would just be under the number of the policy.
Got it.
You have to kind of flip forward.
Okay. Okay.
So we would just strike the word videotaping from the header, and that would then be recording or electronic recording.
I think if we just leave it as recording, then it keeps it very broad.
That's right. That's so Paul, if you have time to look at it, would you like to make a motion?
Excuse me? Yes.
So it was appropriate as written. And
Yeah.
then-
Okay. Okay. Yes.
And we'll call the vote.
Well, this is just as is, so we're just calling a vote to keep it as is and not bring it to the full board, correct?
Yes, I would just say with the change to the header to reflect something that's more modern, but the substance of the policy has not changed.
Not changed.
Okay, I'm good with that.
All right, so thanks, Steve. Paul, it was your motion, yes. Thank you. All right, and then down to mail and delivery.
Okay, so that's policy 3543.13 from the yellow packet, and it was recommended as appropriate as written, and I don't have any changes either.
That's a nice short one, so that's great.
I'd like to make a motion to change the date on this and keep it in the policy and does not need to go up to the full board.
And we'll vote on that. Thanks, Paul. All right, well, thank you very much, Mrs. Loomis, for all of that input. That was a lot. And Ms. Perro for keeping us honest with the motions, and thank you very much. And Dr. Byers, of course. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the policy. Oh, sorry, Mr. Davis.
I do have
Seems like
a question. I apologize.
No, that's all right.
We had several policies that were first reads at our last board meeting. And we haven't taken those up. Is that correct? At this policy meeting?
I'm trying to understand the question.
Right.
There's some policies that were at first read the last board meeting, full board meeting. They should come back to us for a second read if there's any changes. I don't remember. I'm sure he's correct. I sit next to him and I try to get smarter by sitting next to him, but that would make sense that we have some first
I
reads.
picked up and, you know, I was just thinking about it a few minutes ago. But if we don't take it up at this meeting, that means we have to, we won't be able to take it up at the board meeting.
You're right. There was one policy, Mr. Davis, that I did recommended some changes on. And so we'll have Ms. Perro go back and she'll find that one and then we can bring it to the next policy committee meeting and it won't be in the board meeting.
Okay.
I don't believe we've scheduled that next meeting for policy yet. So, yeah.
Paul, good pickup though. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Now, she's adjourned.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
I'll second. Third. All right. And see you all.